Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Giglio, principal of Homestead High School, and here with our weekly video message for the Friday, January 28th, 2022. So we are getting lots of responses to the survey, so thank you. Keep those coming. But got a lot of info to go through today, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. First, starting off with our shout outs and recognitions, we have one for Ashley Pitta, who is an English teacher for her excellent job in teaching AP American Literature. I see there's two literatures in there, but it's just one American literature. All the teachers and staff, it was the next one. Amazing job in these challenging times. So thank you for recognizing them. Then we had a couple shout outs to our assistant principals. The first one was to Terry Hannigan, assistant principal, for her kindness, caring, and positive attitude, as well as to Brian Dong for all his hard work as the school's COVID designee. We appreciate everything he's doing to keep students and staff as safe as possible. So again, thank you for sending those appreciations in. I'll make sure that folks get to see those. Moving on to some of our questions and concerns. One of the suggestions there was, after the pandemic, we should have more teacher-parent interactions and communications to make Homestead an even better place. I totally agree. That's something that we always look at to do every year. Some of you parents have not really been here when we've had on-campus parent interactions, and so you may not be aware of some of those. But we've had things like, we usually have a new parent orientation, the POP program that happens in August on the same day as the freshman HOP, or Homestead Orientation Program. We have back to school nights, we have guidance nights, we do exhibits, exhibitions, presentations, all kinds of things that have parents here on campus. And we're always looking for good ideas and things. So if you have any, please let me know. But right now, yeah, we're not doing those. We are trying to do all these though through Zoom. So they are being held, just not in person. But I get that it's not as much fun, or it's not as interesting when you're sitting in here watching the computer screen as it is being in person. But I just want everyone to know that, again, the reason we have done this is to really keep people as safe as possible. And so, when we get big groups of people together, you then go home and people catch things and spread things. And so we don't want to do that. So again, our reasoning behind doing these parent presentations and things on Zoom is to help keep in-person learning going. So that's really our motivation behind that. But we do look forward to a day where we can get all back together again, because some of those nights that I mentioned above are some of our favorite nights of the year. So want to definitely get back to them. I do want to give a shout out to our PTSA, as they did do a meet and greet at a local park for parents and some of our staff members. And they are looking to do some similar events coming up. But again, they're also kind of taking a pause because of some of the issues with COVID. So, but hopefully we can get to a point where maybe come March or April, we might be able to start to reincorporate some of these. So that's always our goal. This one was saying, could you please encourage students to take initiatives and leadership roles? Too much adult intervention. When a club is doing an activity, help behind the scenes instead of parent groups standing at the front and doing all the legwork and administrations. Again, a lot of the goals behind when we have extracurriculars or clubs or those kinds of things are to give students places to take an initiative or to take a leadership role and to practice them and learn a lot of these skills. Because again, these are the kind of skills they'll take on to their, throughout their lives. And so that is something that we definitely encourage with our clubs. But sometimes within those clubs, there are duties that the staff member must perform versus one that a student can do, whether it's collecting money and counting the money and turning it in, or maybe it's even making contact with some of the outside sources. There's a lot of different things that are split up duties. So we would need to kind of understand that. Again, I've mentioned this before, that I probably would need to know a little bit more specifics about what you're talking about here in terms of, was there a specific event? Is this a specific club? So when it's just a statement like this, I don't really know exactly what it's in reference to. But if you can give me some examples, I'm happy to do that. This next question goes right to the heart of that, which is, you keep asking for examples and parents are not comfortable coming forward. We all know that at the end of the day, it does reflect on the students. I'm going to disagree with that statement here in a second, but why not establish clear expectations? Work must be graded within 4 weeks. Essays must get comments. And responding to your comment, no, there was no rough draft cycle for comments. This is in response to one of the questions I answered last week. Define a framework that fosters a learning process and growth as part of each academic department. I'll be honest, I've heard this rumor before that, if people come to teachers or administrators and they complain, they're going to take it out on my kid. They're going to make revenge on my kid. I've never seen an example of this ever happening. And so, while it may be everyone's concerned, like, oh, if I, call the police on my neighbor's going to get mad at me. And there may be some truth to that. But again, we understand that there are times where there's confusion or questions or mistakes, and we want to make sure that we are fixing those. And so, we don't see this time where we take out our revenge on the kids. Nobody likes to be proven wrong, but again, the only way we're going to get better is if people can come forward and tell us some information. And maybe you're not giving me your name, but if you're giving me information about a specific club or a specific teacher, I can then go back and say, like in this case, let's say it was, I'm going to make up a name here, Mr. Giglio's English class, and it was the essay on To Kill a Mockingbird. I can go to Mr. Giglio and say, hey, can you tell me about the feedback process that you used in grading this essay? Because I'm hearing from parents that there isn't any feedback coming back. So what's going on there? So I can try and give that information. Now, in regards to us, setting frameworks and just saying this is what the hard and fast rule is, doesn't actually work that way, because each department, we do have expectations. We do say we want timely feedback. We do want teachers to provide feedback. We do want teachers to grade things in a timely manner. But we also are limited in some ways to say, the ed code says that, okay, we have to do this every 6 weeks. That's the actual time when a grade needs to be reported, because that's when we do the progress reports. But we do also have tools where you can see things going live, and like Schoology, that gives you up-to-date grade information. Now, again, maybe there's some stuff that hasn't quite got in there yet, but that's way more stuff than you and I ever had access to, or our parents ever had access to when we were growing up. So again, we are doing lots of things to try and keep that out in front of us. But we do reach out and we do try to figure out when kids are failing or what classes are where there's problems. We definitely look at it, and this information that's being used in there is something that's important, and something we do talk to our staff about, because we have case managers like from special ed or from 504s, our AVID teachers, our academic foundation teachers. They use that information to communicate with families and to communicate with students. So again, my point in trying to say, hey, give me some specifics about this is, there may be a reason as to why you did or didn't get feedback in a specific manner, or maybe the teacher isn't giving feedback in a good manner, and I need to be able to go back to them because it is one of our expectations. But if you just say it like this, I don't know which teacher it is. I could send a generic email to the English department, say, please give feedback. That's one of our expectations. But if I'm not talking directly to that teacher, it's really going to kind of fall weakly. So I want to make sure that I am giving your concerns to those folks. And again, I don't need your name. What I do need is, tell me what class this was or what essay this was and what was going on, and I can try and figure that out for you. But again, I want to reiterate, we do not seek revenge on our students. If there's something like that does happen, I would wish that would get reported, and I would follow up on it just as much as I follow up on other issues. So again, this is one of those areas of trust, and I hope we continue to build that. And I would hope we're building a school where folks would feel comfortable doing that. This parent said, I'm glad there was an upgrade from cloth masks, but I hope no one gives children who are wearing surgical masks a hard time. The N95 masks are uncomfortable to wear for long periods of time, especially during PE. And I don't know if parent just made a mistake here, but we gave out KN95s, not the N95s. Those are really difficult to wear. These are a little bit easier to wear, but we aren't giving anybody a hard time. That's not what we do. We do go up to students and say, hey, you got to wear your mask, or that's not the right kind of mask. Really, we're more concerned about the cloth masks that don't have any sort of filtering. Those have been proven to not be effective. If you're wearing a surgical mask, that's better than a cloth mask. But what's better than that is having either something like a double mask or this KN95. So a surgical mask plus a cloth mask on top of it is equal to just a single KN95. So that's good. And again, if you want to wear a surgical mask, I think I showed you mine last week. I wear a surgical mask, if you can see that, there you go, underneath a cloth mask that actually has a filter inside of it as well. So it's a double filter. But again, if I was even without that filter, this would be acceptable, or a KN95 would be too. So again, we don't go and harangue kids, but we do go and follow up with them and say, hey, you need to change that, or can we give you a surgical mask to put under that cloth mask, that kind of thing. Oops, I think I went backwards. No, I didn't. So we had an advisory this week, and one of the promises I've made to families is that I'm gonna kind of go over some of those advisories because it gives a good chance for you to talk with your kids about some of the things that we're talking about here at school. In the email that has this video, there should be a link to the narratives that we shared with our students. And so the advisory was on Tuesday. We had students read these three narratives. I think it was three or four narratives from past students and current students that related some incidents that where something happened to them, either from another student or a staff member, that make them feel unwelcome or unsafe. Students were then asked to discuss this in groups, come up with answers to a couple of questions. And then we've collected these summaries and we'll be reviewing them at the next staff meeting. And so again, one of these ideas is to make some students aware that, hey, there are things that you say, or maybe you don't think about saying, that have caused other students to feel uncomfortable or be uncomfortable or to feel unsafe. And so we want to make sure that we bring that awareness to you. But one of the other things that people don't talk about is, again, it's, we're trying to create an environment where everyone feels safe, right? And everyone feels nurtured, that they're going to be able to sit down and learn. And to do that, we definitely have to eliminate hostile environments. We definitely have to put an end to bullying, to harassment, to that kind of stuff. So it is within our purview to get kids to start to understand what are things that would bring up harassment or bullying accusations. What is bias? What is prejudice? And not only just to keep kids safe here at school, but really this is sort of training for when they get out in, quote unquote, the real world, right? That there are laws that we're governed by, but also you will be governed by once you're out in the community and out in working world, that is very specific to the things that you say and do can be construed as harassing and bullying to somebody else, and can cause you to lose your job, can cause you financial loss, those kinds of things. And so again, one of the things that we try to get through to kids, and as well as to understand to adults, is that when you talk about the laws that are out there on the book, not our school rules, but the laws that are out there in the books that talk about harassment and bullying, they do not consider the intent of the statement of the person. So if I'm the person who's being accused of something because I was telling a dirty joke or I was using an off-color comment, they're not going to say, oh, he was just trying to be funny, or he's just a funny guy and he didn't mean any harm. They look at how the person receiving those comments or hearing those comments feels. If that person feels, offended or oppressed or put down or unsafe, that's what the law looks at. So having kids understand that that's not just, an adult saying, don't say those things and be nice to people. That's what we do want people. We want everyone to be nice to each other. But also the real other reason behind this is we want to make sure that kids are being productive out there, that they don't lose their jobs, that they don't cause harm to other people. And so they need to understand that there's a connection between these things. So again, I hope you get a chance to read the narratives and take a look at them and have a discussion with your kids, ask them how it went. Because two of the things we were asking is, like, what are things that we as a staff can do to help prevent some of these, and what are things that you think the students can do to help prevent this? So again, the goal is to continue to create a safe and nurturing environment here at our school. I talked a little bit last week about how we're starting the course selection process, and that'll be in our important dates here too. So I thought I would also take a minute to kind of give you some advice about course selection, because this can be a very, very stressful time in a lot of families' lives. And because they're putting a lot of stock and a lot of pressure on, I have to pick the right courses so it gets me into the right college. And so I got to take the most challenging, most difficult. And then that's where we start to see a lot of mental health issues, a lot of people suffering from stress that, maybe they could have avoided with a little bit different thinking. And so I kind of wanted to give you some advice and some things here. So when we're talking about choosing classes, you should always choose a course that will challenge your student, but not overwhelm them. So again, when we're talking about the different levels of courses here, we have what people call the regular or traditional courses. We call them college prep courses. And again, what that means is these are courses that will prepare your student to be successful in college or after school. Honors classes fall into that college prep category too, as they are similar to college prep, but they kind of move at a faster, deeper pace. But so again, if you're, if you're looking for a little bit more of a challenge, or maybe you're a deeper reader, or you can make connections better, you go for the honors kind of classes. And advanced placement classes, or what we call AP courses, these are literally college courses. And so when you say, I need to have all college courses as a high school student, you're really putting a lot of load and pressure, whether it's the amount of homework, the type of work that's being asked of you, or even the type of thinking that's being asked of you. You might be putting yourself into a situation where you are overwhelming yourself. And what's better than saying, give me all the AP courses and honors courses that you can so that my kid's transcript looks good, what's really a better thing to do is look at who your kid is, what their interests are, what kind of a student they are, and push them in the directions of those courses. It's not a bad thing to get all college prep courses. It's not a bad thing to have one honors class, or maybe just one AP class. What is a bad thing is to take too much and then see kids suffer, and then actually see some of their dreams start to slip away because now they can't handle the academic load and their grades are starting to go down. And so then they start to feel really bad about themselves. And that's not something we want to do. Again, I know it feels like you should take every AP course that's out there, but that is not what you should be doing, especially if that's not something that interests you. What I would suggest is, if you are a math and science guy or a student, that maybe you should look at, okay, maybe an AP science class, or maybe an AP math class, or maybe both of those might work for me. But if I'm more of a STEM person, maybe I shouldn't take that AP English and AP push or all the other AP courses that we have. That may not make sense that you're taking, and vice versa. Maybe you're more of a humanities person. Maybe you should take an AP English or an AP government, versus I don't need to take an AP science or math because that's not where my direction I'm heading. And so again, there are some people, I know lots of students who take 5 AP courses and do just fine. But please know that these courses come with a very heavy load and very high expectations. And so, when you add 2 or 3 of those and up to 5 of those, and that really starts to take up a lot of time and space for students. So kind of continuing on here, another piece of advice I'd give you is don't skip levels. We have started to see kids and families who are requesting to jump up a level in math, or to I don't need this course, I need to go here, I need to get faster. Or they'll take some instruction over the summer, maybe not a real course, but now I know all of pre-calculus, so I'm going to jump up to calculus. So again, the point of going through these courses is to get the skills you need to be successful at higher levels. So when you skip levels, you can sometimes leave yourself with giant holes. So be really careful with that. When you are picking these courses, don't forget to put in, well, my kid wants to play a sport, or they want to be part of robotics, or they're on the band, or they have a job, they work at at the supermarket. So and most importantly, don't forget about rest. Kids have to rest. So if you kind of think, say, if you just say, I'm going to do 6 AP courses, well, you're going to be up all night. I guarantee it. And you're not going to be able to do these other things, or you're going to try some of these other things and you're going to have to stay up even later. So really think about putting all those things together when you're picking those courses. A story that I always like to kind of talk about is this idea that when people say, I have to go to the top school, I have to be the most prestigious, and that's great. If you can get into them, yeah, that's a wonderful thing, but they have acceptance rates of about 5% of all applicants. If you put that into an analogy of, like, doctor tells you, hey, you can have this surgery, and there's a 5% chance of survival, that's not something that we're going to take as very good odds. I mean, unless it's 100% chance of death if you don't take the surgery, then yeah, 5% looks pretty good. But if you have all these other choices, or these other options that you can do for your health, you would take those. And so, but people will put all their heart and soul and burn themselves out to try to get into a Yale or a Stanford or whatever, and very few people are actually able to get in there. And when you stop and realize there are some amazing schools that people want to get into, but there's thousands of schools across the U.S. and up and down the state of California, even just within our area, that are really, really good schools and may actually be the perfect place for your student to go. So don't forget about some of these other places, and they may not require you to get all these other AP courses in there. So really looking at there again, if you're trying to go to a CSU, a San Jose State, a San Francisco State, you may not need an AP course. And so again, don't take something that will stress you out and affect you in other areas if you don't need it. one of the things that I know people get really upset about when they talk about AP courses is that, like, if I don't get an A in my AP course, it's like an F, and that's not true. It is actually okay to get a B or a C in an AP course. Now, again, yeah, will it allow you to get into UC Berkeley or UCLA or Stanford? Probably not. But again, it's good enough to get you into other places. So what is important about that is if you're taking a class that's challenging you and you rise to that challenge, that's an important thing. And that's one of the points here, that colleges love to hear that in their stories. Like, hey, I was really struggling in AP, whatever, but I stuck with it and I did better the second semester. Or, boy, I learned this about myself. Those are good. Now, going back to the grades and AP courses, yeah, it's not a problem to get a B or a C. It is a problem to get a D in there because colleges won't even look at that point, right? They don't accept D as a passing grade. The D will count towards your high school graduation. So in that case, it's okay. But yeah, the point of taking an AP course is to get your colleges to notice that. So if they're not even looking at it, getting a D would not be a good thing. But many people will often sit there and they'll focus on the one way to get to something. I have to go to Yale. I have to go to Stanford. I have to go to, UC Berkeley, when really there's a lot of different ways to go. You can go the JC route, the junior colleges. I know many students who could not have gotten into a top level school, but they went to a junior college first, and then they got into that top level school because they built up their resume. They were able to get more skills, and they took and filled in the voids when those kids who flunked out freshman and sophomore years left seats for them. So again, think about that. There's all sorts of alternatives out there, whether it's trade schools, the military, going to having a gap year, going to work, right? There's a lot of different ways to get to where you need to be. It may not be through just, knocking yourself out in high school to get to where you want to go. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with hard work. There's nothing wrong with really trying to get there. But what's really hard on our end is when we give this advice, we see kids who ignore it, families who ignore it, and then their kids start to suffer. And we don't want to see that. So we will do everything we can to support you, but we also want you to make some good choices starting out. So talk to, your counselor, get information out of those presentations. But again, please keep in mind that kids have a certain mental capacity and load and stress load they can handle. And this has been the most stressful time in recent history. It's been super stressful even on adults. So kind of keep a lot of that in mind. And, again, hopefully some of this is helpful. If you have other questions, I'm happy to try and talk a little bit more and give you more opinions. But this would be my advice to folks. Know who your kid is, know where they want to go, or think about where they want to go. Take the courses that would make sense for them to do that, but also think about time for them to be able to do other things, whether it's play the guitar or hang out with friends or just take naps or go to sleep at a decent time. Think about those things when you're picking those courses. Again, going back, talking about presentations, there was a question that I just got this morning. Talked about, we couldn't find the guidance presentations that had happened this week. They said they were going to be online. Where are they? And why does the HHS_news at FUHSD bounce back when I reply to it? Let me start with the guidance presentations. If you go to our website, go to the guidance pages, you'll see something that says high school planning. And then when you click on it, it'll give you these, 9th grade planning, 10th grade planning. And so if you see there, guidance presentation for parents of sophomores, recorded presentation, January 2022. So that's probably the one they're referring to. All the presentations are on there. You see there's stuff back to December. So again, excuse me, you have everything from 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I just selected the 10th grade one there because that was part of what was on there. Oops, I went the wrong way. There we go. So the email that this HHS./HHS_news, that is just something we send information out on. It is not somebody sitting there looking at and reading those. So it's one of those, do not reply type of emails. If you want to ask questions or you need information, best place to go would be your counselor. And so I've listed those counselor names right here, from Miss Amosquita, who has the A through F students with the last name of A through F, Ms. DeJesus, who has students with the last name of G through LI, Mrs. Wu, who has students with the last name of LJ through Sam, and Mr. Chan, who has San through Z. If you look over here at the picture, again, this is if you go to the guidance department page, that very first page, it'll give you the guidance counselors. tells you which ones they are students they're responsible for, tells you their office hours. So when you can try and get a hold of them when they're, by phone or email. Also ways that students can make appointments where you click that green thing that says appointment request, and you can do that. Kids can also come by, scan a QR code and try and make some appointments. So there's plenty of ways to get to talk to your guidance department. They are going to get really busy coming here because this is their busy time of the year when they start working, doing all this work. So know that you may not get through immediately, but keep trying. And again, if you need help, let us know. We'll try and help facilitate those questions. So again, hope that answers that particular questions for you. And again, finishing up with our important dates, as we talked about last time, these are all the big dates that are coming up. It's all about course selection here, from the videos being released next week to the 8th grade information night to course information Q&As that are going to be done at school for students only. Then we've got the February break coming up here. So again, time to rest and relax. And then also we have our course selection process that starts that very end of February, starts into March. And then we'll go into more detail about that later. But again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that was helpful to hear some of the advice. Again, happy to give more information. Again, please get a chance to check out the advisory information, and looking forward to chatting with you next week. Take care and talk to you again soon.